So in today's video, we're going to be talking about what is the most deadly weapon in the Monsterverse. Now, just starting off with that title alone can be confusing, and there's some things we need to address right off the bat. What counts as a weapon? That's a very important question because basically anything could be a weapon. Every claw on every kaiju in this universe could be a weapon. And that's why in particular, just like my Pacific Rim video, I'm going to be pointing out very specific abilities and weapons that stand out other than just bite force, claws, and items like that, because obviously every kaiju has a bite force, and unless it's a particular bite force that has some special ability, then I will include it. Another thing to mention is Skull Island, and there are a lot of kaiju creatures on that island. For the most part, I probably won't include those just because of how much smaller they are, that in comparison, it would just be useless anyway, because of how much smaller they are. Even if they did something good in that movie, comparing that to a creature 4 or 5 times as big won't matter at all in the comparison, so that's why I won't even mention it. And the last thing to mention before this video is the titans we've seen barely anything of, like Methuselah, the mountain monster, Scylla, and Behemoth we've seen so little of. You can't give them much credit because we haven't seen basically them do anything to warrant having a weapon worth pointing out in this video. But starting out, I'm going to go through the main kaiju's weapons, the most honorable weapons, starting out with Godzilla. Obviously, Godzilla's main and only weapon seen in the movie so far is the atomic breath. The atomic breath is his main weapon that is seen being able to melt through the Mutos in the first Godzilla movie, and there's been different measurements of how hot this atomic breath has been able to get, but we've seen it melt through the female Muto to a certain extent. After a little usage of it, it was able to melt through the female Muto, and we were able to see this push back King Ghidorah, who is a very heavy, big kaiju. We were able to see the atomic breath push King Ghidorah back, not actually break the skin of King Ghidorah, but was able to push him back a significant amount. The atomic breath it does take a little while for it to start up, which is a little weakness on it. No matter how powerful it is, it does take a little time to start up. And then I guess technically Godzilla's second weapon is the Burning Godzilla pulse explosions. And this is a weapon, we've already agreed that Burning Godzilla is basically the most OP kaiju ever in the Monsterverse, and I felt this is definitely a weapon. Burning Godzilla is definitely different from the original Godzilla, and these pulse explosions I would count as a weapon for sure, because he goes into battle and he's able to shoot off the pulse explosions and is able to melt King Ghidorah. I definitely think that's a weapon. It's a different item he's using as an attack into battle. It's an extra item that Godzilla used going into battle. Yeah, you see that melting the wings of King Ghidorah, and then you see the second wave able to melt through the heads of King Ghidorah. Going back to the original Godzilla, the male Muto has the EMP blast, and the deadly aspect, I do think it can be very deadly, because think about if this is a male Muto going up against a Mecha Godzilla or a Jaeger other than Gypsy Analog. If the Muto has this EMP blast and is able to shut down the Jaegers, that will end up being very, very deadly because you can't do anything about it. Mothra, who actually has 3 different weapons on this list of the potentially most deadly weapon. One of those is the God Rays, which we saw so little of. It can basically blind an opponent, who knows for how long. Mothra also has the Abdominal Stinger, which we saw go straight through Rodan, and who knows what this could do to another kaiju. And then the last weapon for Mothra is the Silk, which in my opinion, this really is a great weapon. You already saw this when Mothra came into battle in Godzilla King of the Monsters, the battle in Boston. You saw Mothra fly in and shoot the Silk at King Ghidorah. 2 heads got stuck against the building, completely demobilized, could not do anything, and if it wasn't for the other head, King Ghidorah could have been completely demobilized on that building. And the last kaiju with the main weapons is King Ghidorah. One of those is the gravity beams, which this could get very, very fuzzy because technically King Ghidorah has 3 weapons, 3 heads, 3 gravity beams, so one of those beams being shot could be different than all 3, such as when Mothra gets killed by King Ghidorah by the gravity beams, all 3 heads shoot at Mothra when she's disintegrated, but would one of those heads cause that? We don't really know, and so that in that aspect, it kind of gets complicated, but as far as King Ghidorah, it's 1 kaiju, 1 total kaiju, so I'm going to put them all together in one. And in that movie, King Ghidorah was able to disintegrate Mothra, and the gravity beams were able to push back Godzilla, another big, dangerous kaiju, and was also able to shoot Rodan out of the sky with those gravity beams. Also has these spiked tails, which looks so deadly and so fierce, but cannot even make any impact because we don't even see him used. And so as far as breaking this down as to what is the most deadly weapon in the Monsterverse, this is a very tough decision. I have looked at all of these so much. There's so many different ways that one could be deadly, and different scenarios where one could be more effective than the other. But I have to admit, there are a lot of great options on here. The Burning Godzilla Pulse explosions, you guys will really have to let me know if you really think that's a weapon. I'm starting to think it's really not as much of a weapon as much as it's a more of just part of the Burning Godzilla ability. But at the same time, ability, weapon, that's basically the same thing, because Godzilla's atomic breath is ability just like that. And the gravity beams are so deadly. Mothra's silk can be so effective, but I just don't think that's as much of a deadly aspect as it's more of an effective maneuver. But if I had to pick the most deadly weapon in the Monsterverse as of right now, I'd have to say it comes down between Burning Godzilla's pulse explosions and King Ghidorah's gravity beams, just because of the fact that the gravity beams, I said I was counting that as one weapon, can shoot 3 different items at the same time. Those gravity beams are seen disintegrating people, are seen shooting Godzilla across the ground, shooting Rodan out of the sky, and then disintegrating Mothra. And yes, the pulse explosions did disintegrate King Ghidorah, the wings, then the head, but the gravity beams can shoot 3 different targets at the same time. They're shown to be very effective. They're shown to be able to disintegrate people, kill Mothra, knock down Rodan, send Godzilla flying. And I have to say, to this point so far, I'd have to give the most deadly weapon to the gravity beams from King Ghidorah. And now I know this is going to be a very fuzzy area, and you guys have to let me know down below if you agree with me. And I think it's just overall a more deadly weapon, and I think is the most deadly weapon so far in the Monsterverse today. Make sure you let me know down below what you think of this list and what you think the most deadly weapon in the Monsterverse is. But make sure you let me know down below what you think the most deadly weapon is in the Monsterverse. And thanks for watching.